I'm going to come in a couple minutes early here, mainly because I'm using a little bit different technology tonight than I've used before. So I just like to do a check to make sure that the vocal is loud enough and make sure that you can hear the piano okay. So I have my cell phone Sherry sitting here, so if the levels are not good, just let me know and we'll make an adjustment accordingly. So looking forward to being with you here in just a few minutes from one of my studios in Tucson, Arizona, where thankfully it's now below 110 degrees. Fall has officially arrived. So looking forward to getting started and seeing you in just a minute. Some nice intro music to lead us in from the beautiful CVP 809 GB. But I think once was probably enough. So let's see. We better wait about 3 minutes just because we don't want to be early, but we also don't want to be late. So stand by and we'll be with you shortly. Guess what? We're going to start early. I think it'll be okay. So good evening. Welcome. Thank you so much to Miller Piano Specialists of Franklin, Tennessee for having me tonight. I'm Lori Frazer from the keyboard division of Yamaha, and here from my home studio. It's a little different doing seminars this way, but I have to say I'm definitely getting a little bit used to not being on airplanes all the time and not changing time zones 2 and 3 times a week. So there are some advantages to this. It's also nice to sleep in my own bed and actually have dinner with my husband every night. So if you have some questions and you would that you would like me to answer, please feel free to text them in to 615-771 0020. Again, that's 615-771-0020. And the crew from Miller Piano Specialists will get those to me, and hopefully we can get your questions answered. As well, on the Facebook page, there's places for you to leave comments, which I can't see those, which might be a good thing. And Sherry, again, if there's specific questions on that, the crew from Miller Piano Specialists can certainly get those to me. I've got my iPhone here ready to pick up any texts from her accordingly. So tonight is really all about how to integrate a little bit of technology into your teaching studio. And of course, now with teaching so much online as opposed to teaching in person, we've really amped up using technology a lot more than we ever have before, myself included. This is the first time I've actually taught private piano lessons online, and I actually am enjoying it. Some of the things are a little bit challenging, like the delay of the internet, and because I always like to count with my students, or I like to clap and try to help them keep on track with timing, and of course that's not possible with the internet because of the delay. And again, that's not the fault of an instrument. This is just the technology that we currently have for the internet, excuse me, until the internet goes to the next level, which I actually just read an article that the U of A right here in Tucson actually has a huge grant to start working on that, to try to start making that happen. So excited about that. So some of the tools, of course, that I've been using with teaching online have been Zoom. Microsoft Teams has been another visual program to use. And again, different programs have different flexibilities just depending on what you're comfortable with. Like I said, I've found so far that the Zoom format has been pretty good. They have a lot of tutorials out there to show that if you want to add an additional microphone and a headset, that you can improve the audio quality. This is always a challenge as well with teaching online, because what happens with the audio, especially with piano sound, is it takes the sound of the piano and it compresses it to voice level. And in voice level, of course, we lose all the resonance and all the great sound of piano, and you think, wow, this really sounds terrible. But again, that's so that the data can get through faster. I've also been using apps with students. Piano Maestro has been a great one. With Piano Maestro, it pairs along with their lesson books, and if they have an iPad at home, then you can do home assignments. They can work on home assignments, and we'll actually show you some of those apps in a little bit. Because I don't have another video capture to be able to show you 3 screens, I do have 2 up right now. There's also another program I've been using called Classroom Maestro, which is by Time Warp Tech. With Classroom Maestro, I just have to hook a USB cable from any digital instrument, from my Clavinova CVP 809, into my laptop. And when I share it with the students, I'm able to drill them with notes and intervals and scales and all that kind of stuff. So for visual, that's been a really great program for me. So in working with students from a distance, and not being able to either play duets with them live or being able to count out loud with them, I have always been a huge proponent of using orchestral accompaniments, whether those are commercial accompaniments that are done from the different method programs that are available, or whether or not they're ones that you actually create yourself. I feel that now that this is even more important than it was before, since we're not able to be right there with them and work with them on the timing. So of course, the Clavinova runs MIDI files, which once upon a time those were floppy disks. Now we put them onto flash drives, and for those of you that know me know that I absolutely love my toys for my flash drives, whether they're cars or Wonder Woman or Superman or whoever, but I have a whole thing of toys, which are my flash drives. People say, where do you get those? If you do a search online for novelty flash drives, you'll find a company called EMTEC, E-M-T-E-C, and they have just about everything. And I like using these flash drives for a couple of reasons. One, is they're fun. I started using them many, many years ago when they first came out to try to keep students engaged in playing an instrument. If I handed a kiddo a car or a skateboard, the skateboard was actually the first one I ever had, and if I handed them their assignment on a skateboard, all of a sudden that became more interesting than maybe just a piece of paper. So I love fun flash drives. The other thing that it helps me do is it helps me keep organized. I know that on my car, for instance, is where all my commercially prepared software is, such as all my Alfred files, my Faber files, Hal Leonard, all of the different publishers are there on that flash drive. And then on the Wonder Woman flash drive is where most of the files are that I have created myself. And so we're going to talk a little bit about both and how to use both. Some of the companies, for instance, like with Hal Leonard, you'll notice that there is a logo on here that says Audio Access Included. And so when you purchase this Hal Leonard book and you open it up, there is a code inside of here. And in the code, you can go and you can download 2 different kinds of files that go along with this book. If you want to use the MIDI files, which if I'm using a Clavinova, I absolutely want to use the MIDI files because I can slow them down, I can take right hand out, I can take left hand out, and they're much more flexible. But I can also download audio files. Hal Leonard also gives you a player, an audio player, where you can, again, take the files and slow them down, work on rehearsal markings and that type of thing. But there's a wonderful free app from Yamaha that if you have not downloaded it, I highly suggest you do. And we're going to go ahead and launch it here on my iPad right now. And this app is called Chord Tracker, C-H-O-R-D Tracker. It's available for iPhone and iPad. And what's great about this is that you don't have to be tethered to an instrument to use this. So again, your kiddos that have iPhones and iPads can download this app, and they can use this app to use for rehearsal purposes. So for instance, I've taken the Piano for Kids books, and I actually downloaded those off of their site using my code. And so once I open them up and I find all of these different books, let's say that I want to play Can You Feel the Love Tonight. Now, the actual purpose of Chord Tracker is to show me the chord structure of the piece. Well, the kiddo's going to be reading off of the score, so they don't really need to know the chord structure. But what is important in this app is that you have tempo control, so that even though it's audio, you have complete control over the tempo. And the other thing that you have is something that's called an A-B repeat mark. And what the A-B repeat mark does is usually it's the bridge that we need the most work on. And so as the app is playing, you can touch it right to the point where the student starts to get in trouble, and then you can mark the B section for the close. So I'm using what I've plugged in right now with my iPad is I have plugged in what's called a AB USB cable. And it's what they call on the Clavinovas two-host, T-O-H-O-S-T. This is also printer cable. So it's square on this end, and then this is the flat USB end. Well, because iPads don't have USB ports, you have to get an adapter. And this is what's called a camera kit. Now, my particular I guess it is an instrument. My iPad is a lightning connection, and so I have used an Apple camera kit lightning connection to make the USB go back and forth between the Clavinova and the iPad. So a couple things to know about these cables is depending on which model of Clavinova you have, depends on how this cable behaves. Primarily, this cable sends MIDI data. So if you're using a program like Simply Piano, Joy Tunes, the Faber Player, that's all you need is this setup. And it's a lot less expensive than what it used to be. What I am going to caution you about is please be sure when you buy these adapters to buy original Apple adapters. I'm not doing a commercial for Apple, but I'm just going to tell you that we have a lot less technical problems when you use the actual adapter as opposed to a knockoff, which a lot of people use the knockoffs. Now, if the audio is not coming through your speakers on your instrument, because on older Clavinovas, this two-host USB is MIDI only. On the new Clavinovas, it has a driver that it also sends audio as well as MIDI. But if you don't have that opportunity, all you need to do is use this little audio cable like this. They're these little 1/8" audio cables. You plug it into the headphone jack of your device, whether it's the phone. And of course now, the new phones don't have headphone jacks, so that's yet another adapter. But anyway, you plug it into the headphone jack, and then underneath the instrument, you have something that's called an auxiliary in, A-U-X-I-N. On the older Clavinovas, it's towards the back. It's a 1/4" jack, which means you're going to have to get an 1/8 to 1/4" adapter to use this cable. And on the newer ones, it's right underneath where the headphone jack is, and you just plug it in and away you go. Also, the new Clavinovas have Bluetooth audio. So we can also send audio through Bluetooth as well with no cable. So lots of different possibilities on there. So Chord Tracker really is quite an amazing app because, again, the kiddos can play along with it. They can slow it down, etc. So if we go ahead and if we start the piece, it's going to go ahead and count in. Now I'm going to to just pause here for a minute, and here we are on live TV, and of course the phone is going to ring. The dog will probably bark too, so just so you know. So here's the actual music for Can You Feel the Love Tonight? And let's say that I just paused it right now, and maybe the student has some trouble right here in these next couple of bars. So on my iPad, I'm just going to touch up here. There's a letter A, and I'm going to let it continue to play. I'm going to touch it again, and it's going to just keep repeating that line for me. Now, if they can't play it at that tempo, go ahead and slow the tempo down. So Chord Tracker is an amazing app on so many different levels because we can take the methods that we've taught with. Probably a lot of you have the CDs that came with the books. You can take those CDs, load them into iTunes on your computer, use a USB cable, and transfer them right into Chord Tracker and use them. So I've got a lot of the Faber audio CDs in here because, of course, the challenge always with using CDs was that you had two choices. You had rehearsal tempo and performance tempo, and rehearsal tempo is never slow enough. So again, we can take and we can slow this tempo down. You can even transpose it if you want to. So Chord Tracker is an amazing, amazing app. If I want to, on this particular model, because I am hooked up, I can actually hit the record button and record myself playing right over the top of that orchestration. Now, not only does that work for method courses, there we go. Not only does that work for method courses, but it also works for pop tunes. So if a kiddo has a song that they want to play that's on the, that they're listening to on iTunes, all they have to do is download that song for $1.99 into their device, open it up in iTunes or in Chord Tracker. They can slow the tempo down. They can, and also there's a little icon down at the bottom that actually shows the chord in root position. So you can show them chords as well. So, and they can record themselves over the top of absolutely anything. If you happen to have a Clavinova, such as this CVP 809 GP, that has a microphone jack, I could plug the microphone in, hit the record button, and it will also record my voice. But I will spare you that, because that's probably not one of my maybe better talent, shall we say. But Keys to Imagination, Keys, T-O, imagination.com, is a site run by Michelle Sisler, where there's a lot of amazing, amazing teaching tools in there. Games, and again, lots of activities that you can do with your students online, available there on her site. And I'm going to be showing you some accompaniments here in just a moment that I've created using the Clavinova that I have put on her website for you to use for free. All you have to do is buy the sheet music, and please buy the sheet music because we have to keep supporting our publishers, because if we don't, there won't be any music for us to buy. So if you go onto her website and you go into MIDI and just type in my name, there will be a lot of different accompaniments up there. And although it seems strange, we're going to be talking about Halloween music tonight. Oh, how can that be? I don't even know how it's September already. But we're going to talk a little bit about Halloween music, and I have a fair amount of Halloween music up there. So the files are up there for a couple of ways for you to use. One, there is a MIDI file. Excuse me. There's a MIDI file available that you can download, put on a flash drive, and your Clavinova will play it perfectly. Not only will your Clavinova play it, but I've also embedded sound changes, so that as the kiddos are playing through the different sections, the sounds on the Clavinova will change, which you'll see in just a moment. If you decide you don't like those, please don't hesitate to contact me, and I'll be happy to send you the file without those. But I've also put them up there as MP3s, as the audio file. So again, you can go up there, you can download those files for free, pop them into Chord Tracker, and then slow them down, speed them up, whatever you want to do with them. And then I've also included a little tutorial. So if the song has a 4-bar introduction before you're supposed to start, there's a little tutorial about this is what's going to happen. With fermatas and things like that, depending on how the piece is, sometimes it's not worth it to put in a 1-bar retard, so I'll just tell you that at bar so-and-so, just continue a tempo. So there are tutorials about what has been done on these accompaniments for you. So we're just going to go ahead and exit out of Chord Tracker and actually go into some music. Now, as far as accompaniments, there are orchestrated accompaniments for just about everything. I mean, Dozen a Day has accompaniments. Carolyn Miller has a great book that's similar to Dozen a Day, which has a sports theme. They're available through Hal Leonard, through Willis. Great accompaniments. Ensembles have accompaniments. Alfred. Oh my gosh, Alfred, Faber, Hal Leonard, Bastian. I mean, the list just goes on and on. It's really just a matter of finding where is it? Do I have the CDs? Do I need to buy them? What do you need to do? Also on Keys to Imagination, she has available the commercial backgrounds and the commercial files as well, and lots of things available. So I thought what we would do is maybe go off the grid a little bit and talk about things that are not available. So I like to take pieces for kids that maybe on their own are not necessarily that exciting. This is one that's published by FJH that's called Snaggle Fritz. And the title alone caught my attention on this one. And what I love in this book, in this song, are the words. And it's about a cat. And it says, "My name is Snaggle Fritz. I am a cat extraordinaire. My fans, they come from miles around to marvel at my hair. I have a reputation for conceit, but I don't care. I'm fabulous and marvelously me. So there." So it just goes on, and it's a fun piece, and it's not difficult, but if we just play it as a piano piece. Cute piece, and not difficult. So when, for those of you that have seen me do workshops before, you probably know that I absolutely love the style section. So when we talk about a style, that's here on the left, and when we look at this, we have pop rock, and you can see all these incredible categories across here, rock categories. Now you'll also notice that we have multiple pages of these styles. So under rock, I have this whole page. I've turned to page 2, I turn to page 3. They just go on and on. There are literally hundreds of them in here. If there's a little arrow on the side, we call that a reveal window. And so if you touch the arrow, that gives us even more categories. And there's even more categories. So it's really fun to work with students, to talk with them about genre. Sometimes just putting on a beat and having them play along with a beat is great fun. On our CLP basic pianos, we have these great drum beats that you can practice along with, 8-beat, 16-beat, different things like that. And they really are a lot of fun. So when I'm looking at an accompaniment and what I'm going to do with an accompaniment, I listen to the styles and I try to get an idea of, you know, what might be fun for the student and what might be an interesting thing to do with the piece. So with Snaggle Fritz, I wanted something that was fun. And so there was this really fun country rhythm that I believe was called Country Shuffle, if I remember right. And it is so much fun. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's absolutely what I need. And yeah, Country Shuffle too. Now, when we talk about a style, that's the section over here on the Clavinova. And so what we have is we have an A, a B, a C, and a D. What those variations are is that A is like the beginning drummer and D is like the advanced drummer. And one of the reasons why I think automatic rhythms or styles have gotten such a bad name is because someone will typically put on a style and leave it there for the duration of the song. Does Smart Pianist work with a CLP 645? Yes, it does. And I'll open that text in just a second. Let me move my phone up here so I can pick these up. Actually, you know what? Let's just do it now. Let's open it right now. So the question is, okay, so the app that I was talking about is called Chord Tracker. We have another app that pairs directly with our instruments, with CLP instruments, with a CVP 809 and a CVP 805, which is called Smart Pianist. And in Smart Pianist has a lot of the same components that Chord Tracker does. And basically, they've put Chord Tracker right in this app. And so, with the CLP 645, with Smart Pianist, how you would get these files in and use them is there is a great program. It's a free program called Dropbox. And Dropbox is like a hard drive in the sky. It's a hard drive in the cloud is essentially what it is. And so, if I wanted to add music from Dropbox into my Smart Pianist app, what we would do is we would go into what's called User Songs. We would hit the download button, and then it asks you, what song from your Dropbox file do you want to put in there? And I say, oh, let's go into the Federation folder. I want to put in a background called Cheerful Chihuahua. And so I select that, and I hit import, and it says, do you want to import it? Yes, I do. So now Cheerful Chihuahua that's been in my computer in Dropbox that quickly is now in my Smart Pianist app. So it's great. You can do this with MIDI files, and you can also do this with audio files. Now, if you have a 645, so let's talk a little bit about CLP product. CLP we affectionately call our Clavinova legitimate pianos, as opposed to our Clavinova versatile pianos and our Clavinova Smart Pianist, which is yet another series. So on CLP, its basic function is that it's an incredible piano with some other bonuses. So Smart Pianist can hook up to CLP 645 and use the Smart Pianist app. Now in the Smart Pianist app, you can combine sounds, you can split the keyboard, you can put a different sound on the left. But in the CLP 645, you have 40 orchestral voices. So you've got like pianos, harpsichords, strings, vibes, bass, those kinds of things. As opposed to here, where I have about 2,000 orchestral voices. So what happens with a MIDI file, which is data, if I record something here in MIDI, and you try to play it back on your 645, those voices don't live in its brain, and so it doesn't know what to play back. So if you want to use these accompaniments on your 645, download the MP3 version, because the MP3 version is audio, and then you'll get all of the great orchestral sounds that I used on the Clavinova. So I hope that answers your question. And the hookup is the same. It's the USB cable to the camera kit to your iPad. It's exactly the same. So it's really a wonderful, wonderful app. I love to use Smart Pianist on the CLP series because it's just like having the whole world open up, because you do have this section where you can take all of your songs that are in your iTunes library and play along with them and see what the chord changes are and slow it down and speed it up. So if you've not tried Smart Pianist on your CLP 645, I'd highly suggest it. Smart Pianist works from a CLP 635 on up. 625, it doesn't work, but 635 on up. Smart Pianist is also the app that runs our CSP digital pianos, and then our CVP, because we have such a large screen here with so many of our functions here. What's the matter? No, it's still working. Oh, so if I'm having a video feed problem, let me know. It looks like I might have we might have a data overload in the house. But anyway, going back, and then, so because of the screen on the CVP, you don't need all of that functionality on the, on the screen of Smart Pianist when you're using it with CVP. That was about as clear as blue mud, wasn't it? Sorry about that. Okay, so I take a look at this song, this fun song, Snaggle Fritz. And so with the styles, like I was mentioning, we have an A through D, And I like to look at the sections of the song. Where's the A section? Where's the bridge? Where's a repeat of A? Where's coda? Now, the other reason why I like to look at form is because it helps the little kids who aren't used to playing 3 pages of music. And when you pull out this supplementary, you know, they're used to playing 12 bars or 16 bars, and all of a sudden they have 3 pages and they say, do I have to play the whole thing? Well, this is where you get the opportunity to say, yes, but if you play this page, when you go to this page, it's exactly the same. Early discussion of form. So I like to use different sounds for different sections of the song. So the songs that I've used in here, the sounds I've used, what's called a 50s vintage spring. It's a spring guitar, and it's a great. Now, on the Clavinova, our guitar voices pitch typically an octave down from what you're hearing right now. And so I like the sound of it there. So what I had done is I went into the menu, and I went into the second page of the menu, and I went into an icon, or an app as we call it, called Voice Setting. And if you look at this page right here, you can actually see octave. Main is what we call the main sound on the Clavinova. If we have 2 sounds together, that would be the layer. And if I have a sound on the left, that would be left. So if we look right in the middle, you can see that with the main octave, I have it at 0 because I want it to pitch here as opposed to when it first came up, it's here, which actually is kind of fun too. But anyway, so for this particular case, I did switch the octave, and I just wanted to show you where that was because I think that's pretty neat to be able to do that. The next thing I do is I go through and I figure out what are the implied chord changes. So in this particular case, it's an A minor to an F to an E. Let's see, I got to put my glasses on because I can't even read my own writing. A minor to F7 to E. So I actually go in and I figure out the chords, and this can even be an activity that you do with your students. You can play a chord, they can play the right hand, and you can play a chord for them and say, does this one sound better or does this one sound better? And actually sometimes they may pick chords that I think, well, I'm not sure about that. And they actually turn out to be okay. If you don't have time to do that, you can take a look at the teacher duet part, and this will always give you an idea of what the chord structure of the piece is. So I then take the country shuffle, and I turn on an introduction, and I turn on what's called the accompaniment button, and I record the chord changes through the entire song. As I record the chord changes, I also will change the variation. So for the A section, I'll use one variation of the style. For the next section, I'll use a different variation, and for the next section, I'll use a different one. And the reason for that is because it creates interest. Because otherwise, you just have this background just sitting there, just chugging and chugging and chugging along. And after about 12 bars of it, it's not so exciting anymore. So I'd like to play you a little bit of Snaggle Fritz. I think this piece is an absolute blast. So I hope you enjoy this. So my name is Snaggle Fritz. I'm a cat extraordinaire. Here we go. Whoops. Oh, sorry. I saw my iPad plugged in. You can't have your iPad plugged in and use the control panel at the same time. Here we go. Let's just load up the song again. Let's see. Snaggle Fritz. Here we go. And here we go. So there's a little bit of Snaggle Fritz. I just think that song is so much fun with that background. So again, in using this remotely, you can download the background of this. The student can have it in their device. They play it on their end so that when you're teaching, you're actually hearing them play the accompaniment from their end. You're not generating it from your side because of the time lag issue. So you also may have noticed that the guitar sound has that little slip. In the Clavinovas, we have something that's called super articulation. And what super articulation is that when we sample or when we record a sound, there are many, many things about a sound. It's not just that when you play louder and you play the note harder that the intonation changes. If you think about a guitar player, he's slipping through somebody else. He's slipping through the frets. And so that's when we talk about articulation. So you'll notice as I play, if I separate, you don't get the slip. But if I play that legato, you actually hear the slip in between the keys. So it's really neat as the student is playing pianistically to hear how this sound changes. And it really honors their articulation, if you will. And just a fantastic way to listen to touch and to listen to articulation. So I hope you enjoy Snaggle Fritz. The next one, we are going to talk about a Halloween piece. And if you have any students in Gold Cup or in Federation, this is a Federation piece. This is by Winann Rossi, and it's called Skeleton in My Closet. And going back to keystoimagination.com, Winann is going to be doing a free webinar next Friday, the 18th at 10 a.m. Central, which is free. Just go on to keystoimagination.com and sign up. When I met her originally in Denver and told her that I was working with some of her pieces and we were talking about Skeleton in My Closet, she says, you have to make it spooky. You have to make sure that you make it spooky. So on the CVP Clavinovas, we have all of these fantastic sound effects. And I want to show you where they are because they're a little bit hidden. So if we touch the control panel in the center to bring up the voices, you'll see all of these different tabs across. You'll see piano, organ, guitar, bass. Now, as I'm pressing these, the buttons over here that correspond on the control panel are lighting up. Now, if I touch it here, it'll change it in the panel so that they go back and forth. You can do either one. If you like buttons, press buttons. If you like the control panel, use the control panel. But there is a folder in here that is not up here, which is called Others. And so when we open Others, and I'm just going to use the up arrow to go back to what I call the beginning of time, you see these 4 categories. And you see Legacy, GMXG, Mega Voice, and GM2. What these actually are the sound engines of our older Clavinovas. So what's amazing to me is that we're up to the 800 series Clavinovas. I have MIDI files that I created on CVP 200 series in about 2000, actually, year 2000. Wow, that was 20 years ago. And they play beautifully on here because those voices still live here. They sound a lot better now than they did then. But if I go into Legacy, if you've had an older Clavinova, these may be buttons that you recognize. Piano, electric piano, organ. These are the buttons that used to be on the control panel of the older instruments. Now, if I go up into a folder that says GM and XG, that stands for General MIDI and Extended General MIDI. Just trust me on that. And again, you see a whole bunch of these folders. I'm going to go to the second page, and in the second page, you'll see something that says Sound Effects. And this is where all the Halloween sounds are, all the spooky sounds and all the fun sounds. So you've got things like applause and all these different things. There's 5 pages, if you will, of sound effects. So you'll also notice on the column next to sound effects that there's a star. And so if I say, wow, for my ghost story, I need thunder, I need Mao, he's kind of cool. I need a ghost. I need wind for sure. I need rain. What else do I need? Oh, I need a door squeaking. I need a door slamming. What else do I need? Oh, there's all kinds of goodies in here. Let's see. Oh, I for sure need a scream. I need the bad guy laugh, maybe some footsteps, and a punch. So by starring these, now what they've done is they've moved over into this folder that has a star. So if I need to get to them quickly, boom, they're right here. And I can go to them very, very quickly. What's interesting about, oh, I didn't bring up footsteps. So let's go back. Let's go find footsteps. I love footsteps because footsteps to me is one of the neatest ways to teach crescendo. So you can start softly with a footstep and say, I want you to start quietly and I want you to walk towards me, which actually gets them to, oh, I did favorite. But so you can start very, very soft on footsteps, like if you're just doing a scale. Say, I want you to come closer to me and have them play louder. Now I want you to come back down. I want you to go away. So really a neat way to work on scales is by footsteps, teaching crescendo and diminuendo. And these also are pitched, so like the laugh down here is very sinister. Up here you have flipper. So they will absolutely love the sound effects, and the sound effects are great fun. So what I did with Skeleton in my closet is, of course, I had to have the sound effects. I've got things like the squeaking door opening and slamming and that sort of thing. There is a wonderful, wonderful style. One of my favorite sections for creating accompaniments for students is in the entertainment section. There are so many outstanding styles in here. Wild West. Oh my goodness. Wild West, we teach so many little cowboy songs, especially in the beginning, and Wild West is like the perfect style for that. Sci-fi March, it's all over Star Wars and that kind of thing. So these styles are just amazing. Animation Fantasy is one that I use quite a bit. You'll hear it on Melody Bober's Trampoline Tricks that's on the website. Great, great style. Classic soundtrack. There are so many of them in here that are just amazing. But the one that I decided to use for Skeleton in my closet is called Movie Panther. And it sounds just like Pink Panther. And so I really kind of wanted the feel to be sneaky because the skeleton is hiding in my closet. So this one was a lot of fun to put together. When I do these pieces, the other thing that I like to do is I like to use sound to tell a story. So of course with Halloween and of course with a skeleton we think of bones. And so what better thing to use for bone sound than things like xylophones and marimba. So we have this. So I used, like I said, I use a lot of xylophone, a lot of marimbas because I want that, the bone sound, if you will, for the skeleton. So again, I did the same thing. I went through and figured out what the implied chord changes were. And again, the teacher duet accompaniment was a great help. And recorded the chord changes. And so here's Skeleton in My Closet. So this is, I hope you enjoy this one. I think this one's a lot of fun. So hopefully when Ann, this is spooky enough for you. Here we go. There's this. It bothers the dog's ears. So he'll sing with us. I have my own sound effects. Beasley. So the basset hound howling in the background is not one of the sound effects, so I'm sorry, but those will not be on the files that you download. He only saves that just for me. Everybody has an audience, don't they? And everybody has a critic. But I think that this song is just really, really great fun, and I hope your students have as much fun with it as I have with it. A couple more we'll take a look at. This is really a fun piece called Chop Suey. This is by Glenda Austin, and this is a Willis Hal Leonard piece. This was another one that if you had students that were in Federation, Beasley, please. We may just have to put up with that. I don't know. We'll see. All right. So again, Chop Suey. Maybe I should have done something different because this is going to be marimba-ish sound also because, again, the wood of the chopsticks. Now, this was fun. I used a style called Latin pop or Oriental pop. It's fun. So I hope you enjoy this. So here's a little bit of Chop Suey accompanied by my singing basset hound. Here we go. Again, taking these pieces that are just basically, you know, middle C and middle D position pieces and adding these styles and adding these voices to them it's really a lot of fun. Let's take a look for a moment. This is really a fun book. Again, Willis Hal Leonard, Wendy Stevens. This is another woman who's super, super creative. If you're not on her website and get her newsletters, please do, composecreate.com. Wendy Stevens, just really, really a fun lady. Her music is great. These are so much fun. There's a piece in here called French Fries Ice Cream. And in French Fries Ice Cream, you know, you always think, well, what kind of style is that? And so I actually ended up using a real Latin type of a sound. And I thought maybe what I would do with this piece for a little bit is just record a little bit of it so that you can see what that process actually looks like, as opposed to me, I always say, doing the Julia Child where I'm taking the baked turkey out of the oven. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the original one so that I have all my settings and we won't spend time working on that. So the style that I used on this one is called Tijuana. And it's a fun background, it's upbeat, and it's great. So if we take a look at the chord changes in this piece, it's a C chord, it's a G7 chord, it's a C chord, it's a G7 chord. Does that sound like any beginning piano pieces that you've ever done? So it's an A section, it's a little bridge, and then it's like a repeat of A. Now, when I recorded this the first time, this piece absolutely drove me crazy because I was off a measure. So I would record it, and I'd record it again, and I'd record it again, and I was constantly off a measure. Well, finally I turned the tempo down really slow and thought, okay, why am I off a measure? Well, she does something really, really clever in that she, in the bridge, it's actually 7 bars instead of 8 bars. So it shifts the accent a little bit and gives like this really cool little hemiola. And so my eye was seeing 4 bars and 4 bars, and so it was kind of a little bit of a disaster there. And so anyway, we fixed it up and everything was okay. So in using the Tijuana, so I come over here and I turn on what's called the accompaniment button. The accompaniment is where the band is. If you don't have on the band, all you're going to get, which actually sometimes is okay, is just recordings of just drums, because you might just want that. So we also have 3 introductions. Usually number 1 is tick, 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 you're in. Two's longer, three is sometimes longer than the whole song that the kiddo is playing. So you want to listen to the introductions first. The introductions are going to go prior to the beginning of the song, and the ending is also going to happen after the student is done playing. I've seen teachers who have taken the endings and they go, oh, well, the ending's 4 bars, so let me hit it here. You don't want to do that because these intros and endings run cadences. And so if you're playing chords over our chords, it's not always the most pleasant experience. So the other thing that I do a lot when I'm recording these backgrounds is you have something over here that's called registration memory. And registration memory locks in an entire picture of the control panel. What's the tempo? What's the style? Do you have the accompaniment on? How loud is the accompaniment? Because what I also try to do, I don't always succeed as well as I'd like to, but what I also try to do is embed dynamic changes into the background. So for instance, when I start the piece, I want it loud to announce to the student, here we are, you're amazing, this is what we're going to do. So I'm going to turn on introduction number 2, because that's going to be the one that I've chosen to use. And I'm going to use what's called the sync start, which means as soon as I hit the chord, the piece will start. You play the introduction in the key that the song is in. So if it's in key of C, you're going to play a C chord. You're going to play your chords below the split point. You can play them in any inversion. It does not matter, because basically you're hitting a C chord and that's telling the instrument, oh, okay, play me the accompaniment pattern based on a C chord or whatever chord you happen to play. So in using this registration memory, I use this as a recording template. So I'm going to go to the balance and I'm going to turn the style up to a pretty loud, I want it loud. Again, I want to announce that the kiddo's here. So I'm just going to touch the memory button and I'm going to touch number 1, and that has now locked this setting in. My tempo, that I'm on introduction number 2, and that it's loud. Now, once the student starts to play, I'm turning the introduction off. The dynamic marking here is mezzo piano. So I could, while I'm recording, try to reach up here and grab this style button and use the wheel and change it, but that's a little tough to do on the fly unless you're recording it very slowly, which of course that's an opportunity as well. So I've turned the volume down on the accompaniment fairly substantially, and I'm going to lock that into number 2. So for the introduction, I'm going to be on registration number 1. For the start of the song, I'm going to be on registration number 2. Now, there is a crescendo at bar 7 or bar 8. At bar 9, the student is forte. So there's a couple things we can do to make this volume shift. One is I'm going to use a different variation of the style. I'm going to move up in the alphabet because that's going to make the background kickier, more interesting. I am also going to go to the balance, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pop its volume up also, maybe probably to about 100. Now, depending on how on top of it I am when I record these things, I usually will open this balance window and try to do some of these crescendo adjustments while I'm playing. If I'm doing it slower and if I'm not rushing through it, demonstrating it to you, I will do a better job of putting them in. So when we get over to bar 17, there has been a diminuendo and the student's going down to piano. So I'm going to use the A variation because it's going to be soft, and I'm also going to take the accompaniment, the style balance, and I'm going to turn it down so it's soft as well, and I'm going to lock that in number 4. So essentially, as I'm going through and I'm recording, I'm using these registration buttons to help me control which variation is on the style and also what is the volume. Because, like I said, it keeps me from having to do a lot of it on the fly. So the crescendo that happens, I'll be okay with that. We're going to go to forte at 24, so I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to change variations again. We're going to move this up to number 5. And then we're going back down to piano again, so we're going to turn the balance. Whoops, sorry, number 5 needs to be louder, sorry. Let's resave that. And then we're going to go back down. It's soft only for 1 bar, so maybe I'll just cheat and leave that out. I don't know, we'll see what happens. So the other thing that I would do at this point is I would go through and I would take my pencil and say, okay, at this point I want to be on number 2. At this point I want to be at number 3. At this point I want to be on number 4. At this point I want to be on number 5. And this way you know when to change, and you're not trying to guess. And so I actually will mark in when the changes happen. So to get this all going, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go back to number 1. We're going to hit the record button on our Clavinova, and we're going to select New MIDI. Now, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to select any tracks, any channels. The Clavinova knows what to do. All you need to do is play the right chords at the right time. So here we go. Here we go. Just follow the song. Press stop, boom, done. That was lucky. I didn't blow the chords that time. Sometimes I do, and that's the beauty of MIDI. You just do it over again, and you do it over again, and you do it over again. Now, once this is done, you get a little icon up here that it looks like the end of a flash drive with an arrow that's down. That's your download, that's your save icon. I think that for me that was one of the interesting challenges in getting used to these instruments, was the fact that there's icons instead of words. But now that I'm used to them, I'm good. So we press the icon, and I'm just going to go, again, I always say up, back to the beginning of time. So the instrument wants to know, do I want to save this inside the instrument, or do I want to save this to a flash drive? I, for the majority of the time, will save it onto the flash drive. And the reason being is because obviously when I travel, I can't take my own Clavinova with me, and my flash drives are like my own Clavinova. I just come to Miller Piano Specialist and I pop my flash drive in, and there you go. I'm all set up just as though I'm at home. The other reason why I like to put them on a flash drive as opposed to in the piano is because then I can take the flash drives and make copies and back them up into my computer. So if anything happens to my data, I'll tell you, I'm so backed up. I have these things backed up into my computer, which are also backed up into the cloud, because I don't want to take any chances in losing them. So what we do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tell it, please put it onto the USB. These are all the folders that I currently have on the flash drive. I'm not going to put it into a folder. I'm just going to click Save Here, and it's called New Song. Now, we don't want to call it New Song, because it's just like if you type a letter in the computer. If you don't name that letter something and you leave it as the title New Document, you're going to have one file in your computer over and over again, which is called New Document. So I'm just going to hold down the Delete button, which gets rid of the title, and we just go ahead and we use our little fabulous QWERTY keyboard here. I really can spell the word French, I promise. I'm just going to call it French fries. That's good enough. And I'm going to tell it OK. And so, boom, that whole accompaniment is done. I like to use those accompaniments to create exercise, like if they're working on their 5-finger tune-ups and that sort of thing. I love to use them for that. And again, they're just great for beginning students who need a little bit of excitement and a little bit of boost, if you will. It's just, it's a lot of fun. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the one on the flash drive that's already done for French Fries Ice Cream, because that one's got a little bit more to it. Because what I did with this one is just like with the other ones, and again, guess what? Because this is staccato, I used marimbas again. I love marimbas. They're absolutely fantastic. They're fantastic for staccato because you cannot play a legato marimba. You can try, but you can't really play a legato marimba. So This one, again, you'll see it changing sounds. What I'll do after I'm done playing this, I'll go back and show you how to insert those sound changes, because that's really kind of fun and not difficult anymore. On these newer instruments, it's so much more fun. So here we go. Here's a little French fries ice cream. Okay, so let me show you how to put those changes in. How we put the changes in, let me just make sure. Yep. How we put the changes in is, again, I use these registrations to decide what sounds I'm going to use. So for the first part, I'm going to use a marimba, so I change the marimba. For the second part through, I'm going to use one of the guitars. I'm going to use maybe a mandolin. Let's use that one. For the middle section with the pianos, I want a piano for number 3. So I'm just putting the sounds in here because I'm going to show you what's going to happen here. We are going to go to a wonderful little app in here that's called the Song Creator. And we're going to open that up, and you can see down at the bottom there's something that says Setup. And actually, you know what? Let me go back and load the last one that we did, because that doesn't have any changes in it yet. So let's go ahead and use that one. Whoop, French fries, here we go. All right. So I'm going to press Menu. I'm going to press Song Creator. And down here, I'm going to hit Setup. And there's a box here that's checked that says Keyboard Voice. And I'm going to hit Execute. Now what that just did is that just locked the marimba in to the beginning of the song. And as we go ahead, I'm just going to start the song. Now, I'm going to pause it there. Let's say I want another change there. I change to my next sound, which I had locked right here in my registration. Keyboard Voice is checked, and I hit Execute. That is now locked in there. I play again. I'm going to stop it right before the first beat, change to the next sound, hit Execute. And I just do that through the rest of the song. Once it's done, you have the save icon up here. I'm going to hit save here, and I add a W at the end, French fries with. That way I know that it has the changes in it, and I tell it OK. And that's a secret to kind of how these are made. So I think what we'll do as we wrap this up here a little bit is maybe I'll give you a couple, at least one more Halloween piece out of this FJH book, Halloween at Its Best. This is one that I really like. This is a Melody Bober piece that's called Halloween Boo. This is fun. There is a really growly saxophone on the Clavinovas. Again, there's so many just outstanding, fun voices. And it's, what can I say? It's more fun than I can even tell you. So we're going to go to Halloween Boo. And this one, I've got this growly sax. It's just like perfect to me. And then I used this really fun background called Pick and Swing. And this is called Halloween Boo. Again, this is in the FJH book, Book 1, Halloween at Its Best. So here's a little bit more Halloween music. Here we go. There's those sound effects again. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you got some ideas tonight. Try new things. We're all having to try new things, learning new things. I think for me that's been one of the blessings, if you will, of being home, is that I've learned so much more about this wonderful new instrument here, so much more about technology. And I look forward to the day that I can see you in person. And I just want to thank Miller Piano Specialists so much for having me tonight. It's wonderful to be with you. Again, I look forward to being with you in person. Again, if you have any questions or if you just want a one-on-one that you want to set up, please feel free to text Miller at 615-771-0020, or you can certainly call them tomorrow during business hours. And again, with questions or whatever, we're more than happy to help you. And again, I just want to thank you so much for spending your evening with me. Have a wonderful fall, and until I see you next time. I don't want to say happy Halloween, it's too early for that.